to the 12 Sector Collaboration Series by TTASK, and today's focus is on law enforcement. Thank you for joining us today, and Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you're all well and had a wonderful holiday season. I'm Jen Jacobson. I am with TTASK. I'll start by introducing other members of my team that are here with helping out today. So we've got Lisa Mason, who's going to help co-moderate today's event. Hi, Lisa. And Ken Plowd, who will be monitoring the chat box for everyone today if you have any questions or comments there, and helping with any technology issues that you may have. Just a couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. If everyone could please put themselves on mute unless you're going to be speaking today, so that we don't have any sound issues in the background. Also, the chat box is open, so if you have any comments or questions as we go along through the presentation today, feel free to utilize that. We will be stopping periodically to check in on those questions. It'll be primarily a presentation today, so by all means, jot down questions or comments, but you don't need to feel the need to try to get down all of the information, as we will send the full slide deck out to everyone after the presentation today, so you will have that. Also, just a side note that we're recording today so that other people who aren't able to join us this morning will also be able to view this presentation and benefit from the information. So with that, I also just want to welcome a couple of our guest speakers today. So Karen Ravenelle-Brown, who's going to be sharing their experiences with the law enforcement sector today, and Kelley Edwards. So a special thank you to them for participating in today and sharing their engagement with the law enforcement sector. So I'm going to get started in screen sharing and we will get going. A broad overview of today's event. This is the fourth installment of our collaboration series. And as others, we're going to be walking you through the law enforcement sector within the SPF model, gaining knowledge of the different levels of sector involvement, learn from a shared experience, identify some barriers to engagement, and ideas from each other on how to overcome those, and provide you with several tools around the 12 sectors as used within commonly used evidence-based strategies in our community coalitions. So I know many of you are well familiar with the strategic prevention framework, but for those who are joining us today for the first time and may not be as familiar, this is a 5-step process that has 2 principles of the SPF that offers prevention planners a comprehensive and systemic approach to understanding and addressing substance misuse and related behavioral health problems there in their communities. So the 5 general steps are assessment, where we're identifying our local prevention needs, building local resources and readiness to address prevention needs and capacity. Planning is figuring out what we're going to do to address those prevention needs and how we're going to do it. Implementing, delivering our evidence-based programs and practices. And then evaluation is examining the outcomes of our programs that we delivered. This SPF is guided by 2 principles: cultural competency and sustainability. Cultural competence, just the definition of that, is the ability of an individual or organization to understand and interact effectively with people who have different values, lifestyles, and traditions based on their distinctive heritage and social relationships. And sustainability is really looking at those long-term results of an organization and building an adaptive and effective system that achieves and maintains our long-term desired results. Getting right to the law enforcement sector specifically, that's defined as representatives of law enforcement agencies. So some examples that we see regularly from this sector in our communities are law officers, members of juvenile review boards, school resource officers, compliance officers. And some of the activities that we generally see as well that they are engaged in part of the prevention work is alcohol and tobacco compliance checks, party prevention, enforcement of impaired driving laws, providing education to our merchants on IDs, participating in our social norms campaigns, providing enforcement data to the coalition, engaging in youth substance misuse programs such as SHAPE or DARE, PAL, and in-school health programming and serving on some parent panels, hosting Narcan trainings, and providing leadership to the coalition. Also assisting the coalition in advocating on policies. So with that, as you look at that list here, we're going to go to our first poll today. So we'd like to hear from you on some of the activities that you're engaged in. Which of the following activities does law enforcement in your community participate in? So I'm going to launch that first poll, if you wouldn't mind just sharing with us quickly so we can get an idea of what you're doing. I hope everyone can see that. Okay. Here are our results. Can everyone see? Yes? Results, thanks. So it seems like a lot of people are using, obviously, enforcement of impaired driving laws, serving on the coalition, almost 80%, that's great. To a lesser extent, holding some ETIPS trainings and Narcan trainings. Okay, all right, thank you so much. Sorry about that, just going back to screen share. So the first step is I'm going to go through these really quickly because I know you're well familiar with just the needs assessment. We give you some ideas here on some law enforcement data that we see across coalitions utilizing in their needs assessments. So just compliance checks, DUI citations, social host citations, informational interviews and focus groups. We also are providing here for you some additional examples of data sets that you might be able to utilize for yourselves. So there's the alcohol impaired driving facts from the National Highway Transportation System Administration. It's a mouthful. They have some good information and data there for you, and they do some state level data that's available. Also compliance check inspections of tobacco product retailers, and that's been updated through the end of November of last year, so that might be helpful to you. And then SAMHSA has state reports. So there is a Connecticut state report from 2018, that is the most recent one available right now, on underage drinking prevention and enforcement. So some additional resources that we thought might be helpful for you. So from there, you use your data, obviously, to identify your priority substances and the associated risk factors, and determining what evidence-based strategies you're going to utilize to prevent and reduce substance misuse. And from there, you plan your programs and activities to address that. Capacity, as we know, we're really looking at focusing on what are our local resources that we have available to us to address our needs, and the readiness of the community to engage in that work. So we're identifying our existing and new resources that help strengthen the coalition and the community's readiness to implement prevention work. So here we give you some ideas on how law enforcement can assist the coalition with their capacity building and how they can participate in coalition activities, and seeking really out that law enforcement input on policies and providing opportunity for them to lend leadership to the coalition. Planning is once we've got our needs assessment and we've identified some capacity, it's where we are really planning, the strategies and activities that address those needs. So we're also identifying our measurable goals and our objectives, and several strategies that are ongoing that really reinforce each other, and an evaluation plan post to measure those effectiveness. At this point in the phase of SPF, we're really looking to work with all of our sectors and the community to collaborate on this phase so that we have consensus on what we're going to be doing forward before we actually do it. Implementation, as we know, is always my best favorite part is when we're out there in the community or on Zoom today at this current time, implementing our programs and our activities. And we just provide here some ideas and tips and best practices that we've learned along the way, and making sure we're understanding our schedules that allow for broad community attendance at your events, ensuring how we're getting our communication out and using various tools to do that. So whether that be email, social media, school e-blasts, if you have a town distribution system that will let you do that, that's another way that we found really helpful because it reaches a large number of people in your community. Evaluation phase of the SPF is really when we're collecting our data on our impact, right? So we're really looking at the outcome data that helps identify if what we did, the strategies that we used, contributed to change in those risk factors and substance misuse. So we're going back to that law enforcement data that we initially utilized in our needs assessment, and then seeing if we were able to move the needle. Evaluation is also a great time where we look at our successes and where we were able to change some of our, meet our objectives and our goals, but also identifying some of the areas that we weren't so successful in, why that may be, and what might need some further focus and attention. So the two principles, I'm not going to read this all to you, you'll have it, but going back to cultural competency, we do provide, some strong advice here in terms of making sure we're really digging into our subgroup populations in our community, looking at how, if anyone doesn't have on mute, if you wouldn't mind muting, just so we don't have any background noise, thank you so much. Just looking at our demographics over time and what practices we might need to update to adapt to be more culturally relevant. For law enforcement, recommend holding focus groups with different law enforcement groups, such as those JRBs, the school resource officers, leadership, etc. And just how we're communicating in our community, and just to keep this in mind, is really important work that we're being able to communicate with all of the groups in our community. So we're going to provide a resource tool for you at the end of today, which is the opportunities to integrate cultural competency across the SPF. I'm going quickly today, guys, so we can get to those speakers. Sustainability is the other principle of the SPF that's really important. This is across all steps, and it's the capacity of a community to produce and maintain their positive prevention outcomes over time. So looking at law enforcement, how that contributes to sustainability of your organization, and with other sectors, we're working towards our partners, owning some of the prevention initiatives, and asking them what training might they need in order to do that, and to engage in not only the prevention work that they're doing, but building upon those and adding to them. What technical assistance might they need in order to implement that, and what resources might we be able to help them with. Always important to identify your sector champions who are going to help lead and generate enthusiasm for all the efforts and hard work that you're doing every day in your communities. We're going to provide you with another appendix here at the end that is how the SPF contributes to sustainability, and ideas on how you build that across the SPF steps. One thing we did want to just talk to that's a little bit unique to this sector and bring up today is the notion of a co-responder programs that are gaining traction and have been around for a while, actually. So we just wanted to provide a broad overview to this idea. So many of you may be well familiar with co-responder programs, some of you maybe not so much. So providing here for you on this slide just some basic tenets of the model, and some of the goals and benefits of that. So an idea of a co-responder program is using social workers to respond to calls for assistance, along with our police officers and our law enforcement, and where a social worker's experience and training could provide help. So dispatchers might send a clinician directly to a call, and a push has begun to shift some 911 calls actually to the 211 system. So this really is looked at the combined skills of the officer and the clinician, create a different tool in a way to ease tense situations and connect people with the behavioral health issues to appropriate services. There are several different models, of course. Some are ride along, some are they're called into the scene afterwards when it's appropriate. But the idea is making sure that we're getting citizens directed to the appropriate services. So just some goals and benefits of that is that we're really sending along the right skills for the right need, some lower arrest and incarceration rates. Police are focusing more on matters of crime, medical emergencies, and safety. It does ease the non-emergency calls to 911 as they shift to 211 helpline. Clinicians are called in for more behavioral health calls, substance use issues, and some basic necessities such as food and housing. And of course, it has been through research and experience that there's been a cost savings to municipalities and to states who have implemented co-responder programs. But the big overarching idea is that we're really addressing the gaps in social services and creating greater access to the continuum of care. So
Can I ask a quick question before this slide goes?
absolutely.
Um, do you know who is funding the time for that social worker? Like, are they a town employee? Do the police have some sort of funding for that? Do you know how that works?
I don't exactly, and maybe others do have, I did some research into these and that's, they are being utilized through, across the nation and here in Connecticut, actually, they're being built. Oop, I'm sorry. I don't know how I have jumped ahead there. Sorry about that. The time, I'm not sure about that. So I know that there's a budget for these programs. I've been studying New Haven's. They're building a program now. So I don't want to presume that it gets funded through the program itself that time, but it's definitely something that we could look into and definitely follow up with everyone if that would be helpful.
Yeah, I would be curious to know if there's any, are there grants out there that would fund this kind of a model, or, is this cooperative through like a youth service bureau that has a clinical aspect? I would just love to know a little bit more about those details if anybody knows them.
Okay, sure. If you haven't already, because I can't see the chat box right now with this up, just put your name and email address in, and we'll follow up with everyone, of course. We just want to make sure I reach out to you and get back to you on that specifically.
All right, I think you have me because I'm presenting, but I'll put it.
Okay, yes, I can't see the screen right now. All right, Kelly, thanks. Yes, I will definitely do that. All right, so just gonna stop right here for a second before we move on. And Ken, is there anything? I don't see anything. I can see the chat box now, but do you have any questions in email or anything that that need to be brought up?
Nope, everything looks quiet in the chat box and quiet for questions right now.
Okay, anyone from the floor on that first part, or should we move into our shared experience? I want to make sure that we lend time for any questions or comments.
Yeah, hi, Jennifer. Yeah, Karen.
Hi, Karen.
From Wyndham Pride. Just along those thoughts of the social worker involvement with police department. One of the things that has happened this year with our local police department is that we are right next door to the Eastern Connecticut State University, and they have a Bachelor of Social Work program. So, so this year there are two social workers that are doing internships, two social work interns working with the police department. And from what I hear from also their social work advisor, just that it's going extremely well. The police department is so happy to have them on board. The students just feel like they are just absorbing and learning so much. So, so they're looking at down the road, really wanting to expand on this. And it seems like it's the first year that it's really beginning to take off. So, but so far it's been very positive. So so if there are any coalitions that that are closer to universities, or perhaps the Yukon School of Social Work, just a thought,
Oh, that's a great idea, Karen. Thank you so much for sharing that information. Okay, so we are going to move on to our favorite part of our series here. So our coalition shared experience and our speakers. The sector series really aims to bring practical, real life experience to the series and those who are engaging with the sector. So we couldn't be more thrilled to have Karen Ravenelle-Bloom from here with us today. She's the prevention coordinator of the Wyndham Pride Coalition, and Kelley Edwards, the prevention coordinator of Partners in Community in Clinton. I'm just going to, Karen, you're going to be up first. So I'm going to stop screen share and let you kick it off. And you just let me know when you want me to pull up your slides. If you want me to do that now, just let me know.
Hi. So good morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm Karen Ravenelle-Bloom. I am the prevention coordinator, as you heard, from Wyndham Pride Coalition. And Pride stands for Partnership to Reduce the Influence of Drugs for Everyone. And we are, there's also Griswold Pride, and there had been Putnam Pride. That has since shifted since some of the DFC money ended for them. But I have been with the coalition for its in another week, it'll be 4 years. So what I'll share today with my involvement with the Willimantic Police really began from literally, I think it was the second day when I started my position here. I was actually interviewed by one of the lieutenant police officers to get hired. And when we had our first coalition meeting, what I wanted to share was that at the end of the meeting, these two police officers were there, and they said to me, Karen, do you have some extra time? Can you spend like an extra, a little bit of time? We want to share with you something that we have been doing, that we started up in the community with the youth. And so I said, absolutely. And before you know it, it was probably, I don't know, nearly an hour later by the time they finished, because they started sharing about their development, their whole idea behind this, straight from the police chief down through the lieutenant and others, of developing a youth leadership academy. So that's what I thought I'd focus on primarily during this presentation here, because it's been such a rich program in our community, and just lay a little groundwork on it. But what I found from that first meeting was basically their passion, and I think that was what made me so excited about beginning work with the coalition, was that the police department was so on board with what the work of the coalition is all about, and that they had they of their own accord designed this program. And so just a little background on that is was that there was a little period of time where there was the former coordinator was on long-term medical leave, and so the police and we had the drug-free communities funding at that point. The police wanted to just jump in and really lend a helping hand. And so for many years, they have run what's called a Citizens Academy for adults. And so people can partake in this. I believe it's 6 months. It's like once a week, and it's for a few hours each evening. And so interested citizens can take part in this and really get a sense of what the local police department is all about. And they can also learn from the community members of, needs and such that they see in the community. So, so they decided to develop this Summer Youth Leadership Academy. And the first year it was for a week long for high school students, and there were some middle school students that were involved, but mostly high school students. And so what I think is so just so wonderful about this program is the way, when you look at all the slides that you were showing previously, the way that they really draw upon bringing not only coalition members' involvement in this program, but also other community members and parents and so forth. And so they set it up for a week-long program. So I'll describe how it began the first year, and lay it all out with the first day. So there's a lot of recruitment down the school, through reaching out to parents, through local businesses. The school SRO gets really engaged with encouraging youth to become involved with this, and of course through other coalition members, and also through community events. So if we're out tabling at different Third Thursday events, things like that, family, community celebrations on the town green, we're always promoting the Summer Academy. And so the way I just would like to kind of break down how the week is set up. So I'll say that the first year, again, was just for this one group of students, and as the following year it expanded, and I'll go into that in a bit. But so once students are recruited and signed up for it, they the whole program takes place at the Wyndham Town Hall, which in itself I always feel like it's that is really great, that we have a huge a beautiful auditorium in the upstairs part of the building. And so the fact that the town manager, all of, you know, people that work at the town hall are, you know, it's like, oh, when is the academy? They love seeing the youth come in and knowing that they're upstairs. And I also let everybody know it may get a little noisy at times when we're doing certain, you know, fun team building activities. But people are always really open to having the youth here. So there are, during the high school week, there are 4 police officers that are main police officers that are involved, and anywhere from 25 to 35 students that are here during the week. And it starts at, they arrive at 8 in the morning and they're here till 3 o'clock, and have breakfast, lunch are served here. We utilize local restaurants, local pizza, you know, places that bring food local. Some of the Spanish restaurants, they bring their taco truck, and we have a time where they have the lunch out at the taco truck, which is awesome. So the first day is just a lot of team building, and it's just, you see from the very beginning of the day there, students are really quiet, but there's all kinds of things that the police are breaking students into 4 different teams. The youth are doing things in the morning. We have a guest speaker that comes in that speaks about substance misuse, and he works in a treatment program and just has, you know, a great relationship, builds this great relationship with the kids. They also bring in youth that are graduates from the past. So that day 1, they get to hear from other students of, you know, what it was like for them, and really encouraging them to really have a lot of fun, but soak in as much as you can during the week. So right from day 1, you already see the relationships building with the police officers, and I believe, you know, that's one of their goals, is to really have, you know, develop those relationships. So when they, you know, they are driving around in the neighborhoods, sometimes they'll pull over, play basketball for a little bit with the youth. Certainly the SRNO knows the youth from the school. So they start having those really fine relationships with the youth, and the youth feel like they can open up to them. And what I've seen over the years too is that a number of the officers have also shared their personal stories and how they became to be a police officer. And some, you know, some have, you know, they just talk about their own growing up, things that they saw, things maybe in their families. So it makes it very real for the youth, and you can see and you can hear oftentimes a pin drop, because they are really taking in, like, yeah, wow, they, you know, they've maybe walked through some, you know, tough times themselves, and, you know, and they want to come back and give back to their community. So so that's a wonderful part of it. On the second day, so the police organize all of this. On the second day, we take a bus trip to the state capitol, and they so they get to meet legislators, get a tour of the Capitol. There's a lot of richness that goes into that morning, and the students ask a lot of questions. And our state rep is very involved in this. So she not only sees them up at the Capitol, but she'll come to our celebration ceremony. She just gets really involved. She writes students, she handwrite, or she types, but signs and sends letters to all the students thanking them for being part of this. And then after we've been at the Capitol, we typically do something fun. Well, on the way back, we'll stop and go bowling. So, you know, just kind of make it fun, more team building. The students really get to know one another. And the students are from different schools. So they're all, you know, they might come with a friend or might not. Some don't know the other students. And what's amazing is by the, you know, by like the second day, they're already really forming some nice friendships, and long-lasting friendships is what we've found too through this program. Then the third day we have a career morning, so the officers line up a lot of community people. They line up somebody from the university, even to talk about college applications. But we've had like an ER nurse come in and speak with them. We've had people who've done a lot of volunteering in the community, local businesses, the local newspaper, just people talking about all different types of careers, first responders. And so students really get to ask a lot of questions, and you can see a lot of them like, wow, I've never thought of that. Or this person is right in the community. And, you know, if I wanted more information, this is a contact I have. So that's a wonderful aspect. And then the third day, and then after that, after lunch, the police also have lined up a community service project. So, and you'll see that we'll show a short video, but they often have gone out to like senior housing and done plantings, or we were in one neighborhood where they were doing a lot of painting for people in the community. So things like that. And again, the police are right there. They're digging, you know, they're digging in the soil, they're hauling plants, and the youth are just having a really great time with them. And, you know, just feel like, you know, now they're I've had youth say, it was so cool after group, I had my parents drive us by and, you know, show them all that we did down in that neighborhood to just make it look nicer, you know, all the plantings we did. And then on the following day, the fourth day, the police organized taking them down to the National Guard. And that event is a whole, they're doing team building again. So they're going through obstacle courses, but again, doing a lot of team building. And then on the final day, and again, this is the high school group, they work on making these presentation boards and just really kind of assimilating what they learned through the week. And in the afternoon, they present. So it becomes a public speaking opportunity for them, and they present. So we invite people from the coalition, someone from schools, local business, former graduates of the academy. And so we may have, you know, like 10 people that are there, and they're all in each corner of the auditorium, and they have these big, you could probably see it behind me, some of these big poster boards, and they talk about what they learned, you know, highlights of their week, and each person contributes to that. And then it's a little bit of a challenge, and they get, you know, they get rewards for the best, you know, best presentation and such. And then that evening we have a big potluck ceremony. So families are invited, you know, coalition members, and, you know, some of the, you know, town manager or our state rep has come. And then the students have a chance also to speak that evening, but they all get certificates, they get dressed up. It's a really big deal in our town hall auditorium. And it is, by the end of the night, we have some of the students in tears. They just say, I've never, you know, kind of been through anything like this, and I just learned so much. And I'm so grateful to our police officers and for everybody that helped with this. So, and parents as well. Parents, we've gotten such positive feedback. So, you know, that was year one. And so we've repeated the high school year every year from that. And then from that, what we've done is selected 8 of the strongest leaders, sent them to the Youth to Youth Leadership Conference at Bryant University a week and a half later. Then they come back and they become leaders with now 2 police officers and myself. But so we have 8 high schoolers working with the middle school students, and they do a fabulous job. And again, similar kinds of things, but it's run a little differently, a lot of team building, you know, and again, many prevention workshops, police officers that come in and do, you know, other kinds of prevention activities, things on sexting and anti-bullying and all of that kind of thing. And again, the same type of thing. We do a big celebration ceremony, and then we have the high school students actually handing the younger students their certificates of completion. And it's such a win-win. It really is. And so we just see the pride that these high school students have after that. And they also get stipended for that. So so for those high school students that have gone through that, they're getting really almost like 3 weeks of work through the summer. So again, we've just gotten so much feedback from the youth, from the parents, and from that, we then can draw from these youth to join our youth council and continue working with us during the school year. And again, many of the students also, they maybe play on their sports teams, or they maybe even take on other leadership, student council roles and things like that in their schools. So those are just, some of the things, kind of highlighting this program. And I guess I think if I can share, I'm not sure where my time is. how much time do I don't want to because we have a short video too.
Would you like me to pull the video up for you, Karen?
In just a moment, I just wanted to just share one other thing in terms of kind of outcomes of this and how it relates to also sustainability. So this was funded through the Drug-Free Communities Grant originally, with some support, certainly in kind a lot from the community, and some police funding as well. But when after me being in the position a year and a half, the grant was coming to an end. So we really had to work to try and have the town continue to support the Wyndham Pride Coalition to keep, my position going. And so what we did, we had police officers, we've had a lot of the youth, parents who, when it came to town budget time, they came to the town budget hearings and they really advocated. And so to have these youth and parents get up and speak to the town council and our, public officials, I really feel like of anything that our coalition has done, this kind of work really just shined. It really helped us to get the funding, so that now we are, this is the 4th year that, about 3 years since we've had some town funding to keep us going. So I just wanted to make that point, because I think that's really important to then be really showcasing what, highlighting what our police have done, what and our coalition as a whole, how people really came together to support the youth and keep everything going and running. So I think I'll end at that. And Ken was really so helpful in helping to pull one of the videos that we have. I believe it'll be the one from the website, the shorter one. Yeah, and so it's very brief, but you'll get a little taste.
And if I could ask everybody to just turn their mics and cameras off in an attempt to increase the bandwidth for this video, because I know on Zoom the video qualities can be a little strange. So here we go.
Now push it fast.
Played a huge game of dodgeball. It's been awesome. I mean, everything about it is, you learn something new every day.
We've had a lot of fun with the past few days.
Some community service at the senior center. And we're giving back by planning some things. Wow, you guys are my heroes.
I learned texting driving is safe.
not to do drugs. More hugs, less drugs.
It's lit up in here with my boy Alejandro. It's lit. We're having a lot of fun out here. We're all from the Wyndham community, and we're hoping to give back next week to the youth.
Over here, we're going to be lead by example. So, you know, we get dirty, we get into
Down and dirty, huh?
It just keeps getting better and better.
Yo, you drive me or do I need to drive?
Willimantic community, especially parents that have teens.
I said, do I need to drive myself?
This is a great opportunity for them
Huh?
to take advantage.
Okay, Karen, wow, just thank you so much for sharing that. It was incredible. And yeah. Oh, my camera's off. Yes, thank you. What really struck to me too as pertinent to this series is just what the cross-sector experiences of that. In that, you know, you've got so many sectors involved in that, from town leadership to state delegation, to the business sector, to the media, just a living example of what we're trying to highlight here. So thank you so much for sharing. So if you wouldn't mind putting your name and email address in the chat, Karen, just so if anyone has any follow-up questions. Brittany, if you wouldn't mind muting, that would be really helpful. Just so if anyone has any questions for Karen, they can reach out to you.
Jennifer, yeah, just there is one other slide, and it'll come up, and so everybody will have it, I guess, if they get this recording. But it's and it just lists other things that ways that we and it has all my contact information in that. So I think that is coming up right there.
Yep. So here's your slide really quickly that shows, you know, just another list of items that how Wyndham is working collaboratively with their police department on coalition endeavors. So you'll have this list, and in order to reach Karen, her information is here, so you will have that as well. So thank you. So next, we just want to get to Kelly. Hi, Kelly, you there? Hi, Kelly. You are
here. I am here. Awesome. I don't know if I can share my screen yet, but that's going to be hopefully part of this. So if I can just get permission. Oh, yes, it's going to work. Perfect. So, Karen, that was awesome. And we too are youth-to-youth attendees, and we have a somewhat similar program, but it goes the whole school year with the police. So all of those great outcomes that you're experiencing, I echo and I applaud you guys. It's not easy sometimes with the police, so it sounds like you're really kicking butt. So good job, keep it up. Hopefully we'll get to see you at Youth to Youth this year. Hopefully COVID goes away now. So hi everybody. I have a short presentation that is much shallower than what Karen offered you in terms of her program. I'm kind of covering a lot of different things. So if there's something that like catches your eye or you want more information on, I did already put my contact information in the chat box. And I know a lot of you know me from other boards and stuff. So I'm happy to expand on anything. I'm happy to put your police in touch with our police, because sometimes the messenger is really helpful. So I'm going to kind of fly through what we've done, and then welcome any questions or comments or anything like that. As Karen said, I've been very lucky to be in Clinton for 10 years, more than 10 years now. We've successfully chased down a whole bunch of grants. So that helps a lot with what we've been able to do with our PD. I think it's hard when you're just new to a community or your police personnel are shifting over. It's so much about relationship development. And I know that a lot of the success that we've had has been due to the longevity that I've enjoyed here with some of the same, you know, officers, sergeants, et cetera. We've gotten a new chief over our time, but I do know that matters. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully this will all work. All right, so can you see like kind of pink and teal? Yeah, okay. I'm gonna put it into present mode. All right. Okay. So, okay, I'll just start like this. So the gentleman in the outdoor graduation last year, that was our school resource officer. Sadly, he has been promoted, and I mean it, because we really enjoyed him working with our youth. But we've been blessed that he came back around, and he's going to be working with us in a different capacity. So, all right. So when I approached my work with the PD, really one of the most important questions that I asked is, what can our coalition do for them? The way that I look at it is, with every sector, how can you rub their back so that they'll turn around and rub yours at some point? This holds true with youth, with the school, with everything. So, if you're just initiating your, or even if you're not, and you're just looking to strengthen it, what is the coalition doing that can help them meet their goals? Ours, with our new chief, we're really focused on improving community relationships. When he took over several years ago, the police weren't seen as partners. They were seen as a threat, or, kind of adversarial. So we found our role to be, we can really make the public like you, if you'll work along with us. What did we know? What information had we collected over the years that could inform their work? And we found a lot of different ideas on what we could put out on the table as, we're taking care of this already. That helps you how? Okay, so I would encourage everyone to reflect in that capacity. And then thinking, how did we make them look good? We included them in everything. If we're doing an event, come. If we're doing a dinner, come. We're doing a youth group, come. They have had a presence in almost everything that we did, because we really gave them a platform to look good. All our reports, end of the year reports, we mentioned our partnership with the police. If we were writing an article for the paper, there was a spot for the chief or the SRO to have a comment. A lot of the billboards, because our funding has paid for a lot, we co-sponsor with them just to put their shield up there, because again, it shows that they're connected to a group that really cares about the community in a positive way. And again, it's just reinforcing their positive commitment. One thing that is invaluable is show up to their stuff. Even if it's one community or coalition member, go. If you're invited to a swearing in ceremony, go. If you're invited to a retirement, go. Not everybody has a lot of time for a lot of stuff, but those little instances where you're present at their function mean a lot to them, is what I have found. We've done, collaborating on funding, applying for grants together so that their needs are met and our needs are met. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. One really cool thing that we have done that I highly encourage anybody to do, and I'll show you an example of these on the next slide, is we have our young people, and actually we do this at Youth to Youth on our one of the final days when the community youth get together. I have our kids create a map. And this is what a couple of them have looked like over the years. So the first thing I do is say, draw the important stuff in our town. And it's always the beach on the bottom, I-95, and then like, where's the school and stuff like that. And being in Clinton, of course, the mall is on there, and then I have the young people. If you look on the one on the left, you can see little tiny marijuana leaves in different places. Like there's one by the skate park, there's one by the trailer park, and I have the kids really think about where people are using, where people are accessing. In other years, we've really focused more on alcohol, and then I have the kids take these maps back and they present them to the police. And sometimes the police are aware of a lot of the different information that the kids offer, and sometimes they're not. But either way, whether it's new information or it's old information, it creates a dialogue of trust between the kids and the police. And every time we've done this, it's had a positive outcome. So that's a neat activity that I highly recommend. All right, some other pictures and things that I highly recommend. You know, attending their award ceremonies, have them play with you. Like this middle picture is a bunch of the officers and a couple of youth at our dodgeball tournament that we have annually. And, you know, what other ways can you include them in fun that you're doing? On the right, we have a couple of students at the new swearing in ceremony for our new chief. All they did was serve cake, but we were there and people took note of that. So, and that mattered. And all those men behind them all dressed up are officers or police commission members. So it just keeps you guys as a partnership. One other thing, I just noticed my note here at the bottom, have students be involved, but as setup and takedown servers. Our police did a huge awards ceremony one year, and they asked if our young people would be part of it in those capacities. It was one of the most awesome things that we've done, because again, it built trust, it built partnership, and it definitely paid off. Another thing that we do is we really heap praise upon them. A few years back when we had our change of leadership, the morale there in the PD was pretty low. And so we really worked hard on, you know, when we had included them, like see the thanks card on the right-hand side, anything that they had been involved with, we thanked them profusely for. We wrote letters to the editor, we sent them food, and Clinton PD is not about donuts, they like pizza. You know, so like, and that's a cultural thing. You've got to get to know what your department is about and what they appreciate and what matters to them. We got them gift cards, things like that. They take a lot of beating, our officers generally. People don't call and say, wow, you're awesome. They call to complain. So ways that we can be supportive and show our thanks for them and really letting the community know the good that they have done. Like again, we every year we do a community champion award, and last year our SRO, we gave that to him, so that's him in the middle. So some of the things that they've done for us, obviously providing enforcement through extra DUI shifts, sobriety checkpoints, compliance checks. We used to do canine drug sweeps. We haven't done one in a while, but there were a couple of years we did that. What was cool about the sobriety checkpoint, that picture on the bottom right with me in the middle with my little police vest on at 3 a.m. was, you know, coalition members' willingness to stand out through the night with them at these checkpoints meant a lot, and it really strengthened our relationship with them, because they were like, oh, it's 10 o'clock, aren't you guys going home? And we were like, no, we're here for the duration. Coffee's coming at 11 and sodas will be coming at 1, you know, and we had set up like a lot of refreshments for them, and they were like, oh, like you guys really are in this with us. You're not just like throwing it at us to do. And that really strengthened our relationship too. Like when we needed them, their backing for like budget discussions and things like that, like Karen said, they were there and they were saying, yes, this is worthwhile. This is a program that works and should be funded. So again, investing your time. The middle photo is something we love to do every fall when it's med take back time. Our youth group dresses up as zombies, and they hold signs, as you can see, and they stand out. Our PD is on Route 1, which is a highly traveled road through the middle of our town, and they attract a lot of attention with their costumes and their signs. And it's at the PD, and the police teach our youth about why it's important to have a med take back, you know, all of the pieces that we know about that. But it's a great and fun partnership that the kids really look forward to. It attracts a lot of attention. Like people will pull in and be like, what's happening? And then they go home and they get their medication. So it's kind of cool. Highly recommend that kind of a fun activity. And it doesn't have to be zombies. You can dress up as Easter bunnies in the spring. I don't know. You know, you can get creative with that. And then the picture on the far left is an education opportunity, which our police have come out just and done such a great job. We're lucky to have a canine officer. This this is Sunny, who is hitting on, there's a little, I don't know how big your screens are, but there's a little envelope in the top of those windows, a little white, and Sunny was hitting on some drug residue that was in there, and they were demonstrating to our young people and their parents how that works. So lots of education stuff, which I'm sure a lot of you guys do. We do the server training, all different community presentations. When we do our survey presentation, they're always part of the discussion. We do have DARE in 5th and 7th grades. And then when we have our youth group meetings, the SRO tends to be part of it, whether he's not usually presenting, he's just being part of the experience with them. So again, like just kind of folding them in to everything that you're doing. Here is a picture of our youth group. Like Karen's, there's a community service component. So this was a day that they were collecting food for the food bank with some of our officers. So it's hard to tell which one's which. They're all so young. They do community service. They too go on fun adventure type things, you know, rock climbing and zip lining and things like that. And then they also have an education component where like we've come in and talked about addiction, or you know, there's lots of different pieces to it, and that runs throughout the school year. And we don't have as formal of a ceremony as Karen, but it's a pretty cool program, and there's always a waiting list for kids to get on it. So that's another great program. You know, the other stuff that they've done for us, as you talked about with the SPIF, Jennifer, you know, they've provided us with lots of data, helped us understand different trends that they're seeing, juvenile activity and where they're seeing it in the town. I do serve on the juvenile review board with them, so we have a great relationship and a great exchange of information. They've given input for our logic model and evaluation purposes consistently, and like I said, over 10 years, it's been great to have some of the same guys involved, so they've seen the ebbs and the flows as we've gone. And, oh, okay, one last thing. This is just some of the other positive things that we've done with them. The chief got kicked on the left there for a photograph of our self-defense that we offered. The middle photo, the police collect the toys for our Toys for Tots with our social services program. So again, even though it's partnered with social services and not necessarily prevention, when we market, you know, we market this, we advertise this, we talk about how great it is, and they like that. They appreciate that. And then the bottom one, I don't know if anybody's been along with me long enough to remember who Felix is. I know Lisa remembers Felix, but Felix was a social norming campaign that we did several years ago that rolled out all of our use data, and our police were great partners, and you know, they locked up Felix here. He was handcuffed. Just a way to like sell the story to the community. So we've had a lot of fun with our police department, and I think, you know, that's another goal to have is you know, the mutual support, the mutual meeting of goals, and having fun, because the police don't have a lot of fun sometimes. They see the worst that our communities have to offer. So any opportunity that we can give them to have a little bit of fun, I think they appreciate. So that's about it. That's what I've got. So if anybody's got any questions or wants to hear a little bit more, I'm welcome to hear it, or email me. Happy to expound on anything you'd like.
Thanks so much, Kelly. Awesome. I'm happy to open the floor. Does anyone have any questions for Kelly at this point? You can unmute and ask. She has put her information in the chat box, and we will definitely be sure to send that out in our follow-up email as well. Thanks so much, Kelly, for sharing just all of that. And it does lend a perfect segue into our next part of this presentation. But Ken, just really quickly, is there anything you want to check in on the chat box if I need to pay attention to at this point?
Nope, the chat box is pretty quiet, although Terry did have a question earlier for Karen, I believe, asking how many youth participated in their youth activities.
Is Karen still on?
I'm on here, yeah. So we typically there are anywhere from 25 to 32, 35 per session per high school. And then when we have the middle school session, that's similar in number. We might have a little bit fewer of the middle schoolers, but then we have the 8 high school students. So I was tallying recently the numbers over the years. So since the academies have started, there have been over 175 youth that have gone through between, and they are youth. So the middle schoolers they're entering grades 7 and 8, and then the high schools will be entering grades 9 through 12, and yeah, so about 175. And unfortunately, we were not able to run it last summer because of COVID, but you know, hope to get it going again.
Okay, so thanks so much, Karen, for that. And Kelly, I do want to just give opportunity to anyone else that's here today, that we know that there are a lot of coalitions that are engaging with their law enforcement sector. So did want to provide just a couple minutes opportunity if anyone else would like to share an idea or two with the rest of us that may be helpful for everyone on the call. If you would like to share, and now's an opportunity for you to highlight some of the things you might be doing in your community. No one right now? Okay. Lisa, are you trying to unmute?
Yes. And I've been working with partners in community in Clinton with Kelly for more than 10 years. And one of the things that's been a real joy to observe is how the relationship has grown between PIC and the police department. It has just, I remember when the police were feeling very unsupported around underage drinking. They were trying to do stuff, but felt like they weren't getting a lot of backup and support from the community. And I think this relationship has benefited both of them so much. And I think another critical piece in this relationship is the youth, is having the police get energy from the youth and get support from the youth, and the youth get great role models and support from the police department. So good job.
It's so true. Actually, I have one anecdote that I love to share. Thanks, Lisa. It's true, because I can remember Lisa interviewing us for some of the state grant work, and what was your barrier? The police. You know, it was always like law enforcement is the bane of our existence, and now they're definitely one of our most involved sectors. So that is true. So if you're struggling, invest in them. It's paid off for us. It wasn't a natural, easy thing. It was a challenge, but one of the stories that I love so much, and I think it illustrates everything, especially like what Karen's trying to do with her youth group, is like one of our students, this is years back, asked me, hey, you know, do you know when the SRO is working, and like, are they working tonight? And I was like, I really don't know their shift, you know, outside of the school. So why? Well, there, you know, there's a party and I'm not going to go if the officer is working tonight because I don't want them to see me there. So like, if that isn't prevention, like totally wrapped up in a nutshell, I don't know what is. So it's like, it's those little relationship moments that are exactly prevention. It's exactly what we're trying to do. So I think it's an awesome thing. It always gives me goosebumps when I say that story, but okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You're on mute, Lisa.
Thank you. Okay, there was another coalition success story that I wanted to share. Another coalition that I've been working with, and to see the change in the coalition and the police has been another one that's been is a good story to illustrate how a relationship can change for the positive, and that's in Newtown. And this illustrates the importance of having the right person from the police department, who's a good fit for the coalition. And let me just pull up some notes. Chelsea Pranata, the coordinator there, wanted to be with us, but she had a conflict. So I said, would you write us, you know, if I give you some questions, would you respond to them? And she said, absolutely. So this is her response. Basically, she says, prior to Chelsea stepping in as program coordinator, the chief of police used to sit on the coalition. However, he was a new chief of police and had gotten grandfathered into being part of the group. As you may guess, the chief is extremely busy and was unable to attend the majority of the meetings. I realized this immediately upon stepping into her role. This is where the job as coordinator came in. I wanted to know why he wasn't coming and if it was simply because he was too busy, or if he found the coalition beneficial, if he was really in support of the work they did. And thankfully, it was just because they were too busy. He was too busy with this new job and new responsibilities. He agreed to send someone to the meetings and have that someone report back to him. That's someone was, and I'm going to mess up the gentleman's last name, Captain Chris Vangel, is the someone who started coming to the meetings, and fast forward 2 years, a shining star of the coalition, active at every meeting, and a co-chair, now the coalition co-chair, along with the director of health in that region. How did she engage the captain? Immediately upon receiving the name of the staff who would be in attendance for the chief, she called and requested a meeting. She didn't want to waste any time. At this meeting, she brought 2 copies of the previously written implementation plan, and very glad she did. The captain had no idea about the implementation plan, what was included, what was expected from them as a police department. Keep in mind, enforcement was and still is one of their top strategies. She couldn't believe it. They had compliance checks, driving enforcement, stop checks, sporting event enforcement, a sporting event enforcement at the schools, party patrol training, all listed within their implementation plan, but the police department had no idea. They were under the assumption that we simply gave them, the coalition simply gave them funding, but wasn't exactly sure why or for what. That had to change. We went over every aspect of the enforcement strategy, what was expected by what date, and what the police could get out of this partnership as well, which has been mentioned already this morning. What are they going to get out of this? Because trust me, the police do get benefits. A volunteer at events, because she told them she would help out with their events, and a youth peer advocate when they need an opinion or needed someone to train in compliance checks, someone to help write press releases, provide them with more coverage in the local media, organizations to help sponsor their event and advertise them. They went through the implementation plan with a fine-tooth comb. They chatted. She immediately thanked him for guiding and teaching her as well. Who knew the cost of conducting a DUI check and the legality behind it? How many police are needed? And the cost of overtime for 2 officers. She didn't until she left that day, that first meeting. She followed up with a gift certificate and a handwritten card, thanking him and appreciating the time he took to meet with her. She received a call a few days later that someone her age would take time to write a card instead of sending a quick email. Were there any challenges? Fortunately, she didn't have many challenges once the captain stepped in. And although sometimes he would like to run the meetings like a roll call, which makes her laugh, she tells him she needs a little bit more practice. She needs a little bit more practice before she can run the meetings like that. Any incentives? The captain now attends every meeting, even supervisory ones. They will get together, the leadership, the evaluator, Chelsea, get together for leadership meetings periodically, and he goes to those. He helped, think through their sustainability plan. He could provide information at the top of a dime that other organizations can't provide, like number of DUIs, number of liquor license establishments in town, number of failed compliance checks. And the school resource officers are actively involved in the work they do and can be called on for public speaking engagements and other initiatives. And planning events like sticker shock and prescription drug take-back days are breeze, she says, to plan and implement when you're working with the police. Another question is, are they a partner? Are they a partner you call on with needed? And I used to hesitate to call when he first came on the coalition's scene. I thought he was too busy to worry about liquor stores putting stickers on products with the social host law written out. But she was wrong. As busy as he was always the first to respond, provides the best input for how to get the police involved and how to do it the most effective way. He gets things done and does not waste time. And I can agree with her, having seen him work at meetings and on different initiatives planning. He is there and he does the work. And he's very easy to access too. So it says, are there any special programs or initiatives that law enforcement implements or contributes? To date, they have trained 40 officers in doing party patrols. They've conducted numerous take-back days, drug take-back days with the coalition. The school resource officers will speak on any topic of our choosing, as they have access to the health teachers and the classes already. And last year they asked if Chelsea would sit on the juvenile review board. So this is a program that they all now work on together. How have they taken ownership? Due to the CSC funding from DEMIS that was extended, due to CSC funding from the state, the police department has not sustained any of the programs. However, prior to this 1-year grant extension, on the supervisory team, the supervisory or leadership team was working on the required sustainability plan. And during this time, the captain stated he would continue to carry on all of our current coalition enforcement strategies, even without assistance, because he sees importance and commitment to this work. And any lessons learned, get the coffee, send the handwritten card, buy small denomination gift cards. Remember birthdays and special occasions. Be ready to volunteer and put in the work for their agency when it arises without being asked first. And again, just the emphasis on relationships, getting to know people is important. And that's one example. Those are some examples from Newtown. And I just want to share one other quick story that I wanted to highlight is from East Hampton. And they had 4 years of Partnership for Success grant funding through the state of Connecticut, through DEMIS, and then just applied. Their grant funding ended September 30th with DEMIS, and they applied for a drug-free community grant this year and just got notice last month that they won a drug-free community grant. They had in their implementation plan work with work with the police department in town on party patrols and I'm trying to remember what the other one was. It'll come back. But when they met to talk about party patrols, they discussed how limited the police staff is in terms of they didn't have enough police officers to both run the regular shifts and do party patrols at the same time. So to cover the regular work that they're required to do and do the party patrols. And they just didn't have enough people to staff both at the same time. And so what they did was the coordinator said, well, what are some things we can work on that don't require that time that officers can do during, you know, their day or evening shift? And one of the things they came up with was a public safety day that both the coordinator or the coalition was involved in, coalition members, the police, the Ambulance Volunteer Association, fire department. So that's what they did with the money at first. And technically it isn't an enforcement operation, but it is educating the public on safety. And they had some fun activities for kids there as well. So they said, so this was a very important community outreach and education to parents, kids, teens, you know, other residents, and it earned them a ton of goodwill. And so then as they went and did compliance checks, it was, you know, then they were able to build off that successful event and work together on compliance checks. That they could do during the regular day, or part of their regular, not an extra. And then they just continued to build goodwill, and they shifted with Demas's permission. Instead of party patrols, they were able to do more with the idea of going out and working on those. What they did instead was start doing drive-throughs around the community. So they shifted the focus a little bit of what they were doing, but they were able to do the work with the resources they had. And then they got a new police chief, and he had already worked in a community that had a strong coalition, and he got it, and he jumped right on board. And the latest good news piece is they talked to the coalition about getting larger drug take-back boxes at the police station. They said, we're just filling these up too fast. Can we get some new ones, some larger ones? So that's something they're investigating now. So those are just some examples of two that I've worked closely with, two coalitions. And I don't know if anybody has any questions about either of those.
Doesn't look like it, Lisa. Thanks so much for sharing those, though, additional ideas.
Okay.
Challenges and successes.
Yep.
Over time. All right, so just being mindful of the time, everyone, I'm going to move on to the next segment of our presentation, which all of these stories really just lend a wonderful launching point to. I'm going to go through this really quickly. I'm not going to read all this to you because you will have it, just sector levels of involvement. And as we quickly go through this, just keep in the back of your mind, because we're going to do a poll on level of involvement by the law enforcement sector in your organization or within your community and coalition at this time. So just really quickly, this does come from SAMHSA's Strategic Prevention Framework. There's basically 5 levels of sector involvement: no involvement, networking, cooperation, coordination, and collaboration. Pretty self-explanatory. No involvement, you're not working together really at all. Networking, might share information about things that are going on, but not really working together. Cooperation, you might start to publicize each other's events. You know, you're supportive in name sort of, but again, still not really working together. Coordination is you're partnering on event. You're starting to see an increased level of partnering and collaborating on implementing programs or services. Maybe, you know, as others have mentioned today, you know, being at an event together, co-sponsoring event, but then collaboration takes it to a whole nother level. Well, you really do have an agreement, whether it be formal or informal, that you identify really the overlapping mission and goals of the sectors. And I think that we've heard some wonderful examples today of where they've really looked at their data, they've looked at overarching missions and goals, where they align and are really partnering together to address those needs together. So there's fund raising together, or they're pooling fiscal resources, human resources, and working on a comprehensive strategic plan to address the issue in the community. So with that, really quickly, I'm gonna just pop up the next poll. If you had to place the law enforcement sector in your work into one of those levels, which would it be? Okay. Here we go. Can everyone see the results? So a little bit in no involvement, lowest, so that's nice to see. Cooperation and collaboration, you know, moving towards that higher level. So looks like cooperation and collaboration were the two highest, followed by coordination. So there definitely is a range on here today, and we're definitely hopeful that some of the ideas have been helpful in order to move that along to the next level. So going back. Just quickly, just you've heard some challenges that people have, and some coalitions have experienced into barriers to engagement, but we do provide you some common examples that we see within the coalitions, some competition of turf issues, just a challenged history perhaps, availability, as we just heard about, to be able to actively participate, funding issues that, you know, we experience regularly on how to sustain our efforts, and recruiting and sustaining law enforcement participation over time. So with that, we're going to just share our next poll, which is, if you have experienced any barriers to engaging in the law enforcement sector, what would those be, if you have any examples to share with us? Everyone can see that, yes? Thanks, Ken. Okay. So here we are. I hope everyone can see the results of that all. Some challenged history, some basic availability, recruiting and retaining law enforcement over time. Does anyone want to speak to any of these? I mean, we're happy to listen to any stories, or I think we've, Kelly and Karen and Lisa provided some examples on some challenge history, or just availability and on how we can, you know, build that relationship going forward. So does anyone have any, just a little tidbit of advice for those who might be having some trouble recruiting or retaining law enforcement over time, maybe Kelly or Karen, in terms of how we, someone who's experiencing that kind of a barrier might be able to overcome it? Kelly, I see you unmuted. You want to share some experience with that?
I just think the turning point for us was when we shifted from ask for them, and saying like, all right, how can we help you? What can we do for you? And just changing that and understanding. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a cultural thing, but it is. You know, the police have a hierarchy that they have to follow. You've got to respect that hierarchy. They do have food preferences. They do have beverage preferences. And it seems like silly and laughable, but it's not. And when you are meeting some of the needs that they have, or you're following a chain of command and not like insisting that a patrol officer make decisions when he is in no position, he or she is in no position to do so, then like you're showing you don't understand their culture. But when you follow the chain of command, it's like, okay, they're getting it, they're part of it with us, maybe they are a viable partner. So I think, you know, looking at their culture in your own town, what are their strengths, how can you shine the light on their strengths, improve their community relations. I mean, we're a coalition with sectors from people from every sector. So we have the opportunity to show how awesome they are to every sector. Why not do that? And that really made our police department turn and go, oh, wait a minute, you know, this is a great partner for us. So I would take that route.
Thank you so much for sharing. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I just do think sometimes I think probably for us one of the biggest challenges is availability of time that could happen, and realizing that. For example, we had one of our officers who's really involved with the summer academy, and he was at, he's come to some of our youth coalition meetings, our youth council meetings, and, you know, coming in that night, and we would do this kind of a sharing circle time, and, you know, students kind of talk about their day. And he was just saying that he had been to, you know, like a couple of situations that day where someone had overdosed, you know, and he, you know, just kind of be able to talk about some of the things that they are experienced or going to calls for domestic violence and such. And so I think that, and in fact, one of the times I was out in the middle of shopping for the summer academy, and I was at Staples with this officer, and while I had a cart full of supplies, and he got called out, and I was left at Staples, and he had the card and, you know, the credit card or whatever. But just realizing that that things, you know, things can pop up for them at any moment. And so I think I always like to thank them for whatever time that they can, you know, give to us, but also be aware of the kinds of things that they may be dealing with on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, just really appreciating when they can.
Thanks, Karen, for that too. So we wouldn't want to leave you with just the barriers, so I'm not going to read all this to you, and I'm keeping mindful on our clock. So we do provide several examples for those who are just starting out or really looking to just commence those types of conversations, some ideas on initiating that relationship and that dialogue. And then for those who are already might have a beginning relationship or even evolved relationship, how we sustain those relationships and grow upon the strengths that we already have. So one idea in here also is, you know, law enforcement in many of our coalitions do have programs that they're working with youth. Coalitions, you know, a lot of the goals are pertaining to substance misuse prevention for youth. So one idea is that to leverage the law enforcement program that they already have in place, to leverage the law enforcement mentors that they already do, that are already working with youth, and seeing where some of those goals can overlap. So just, you can read through this when you receive it, but a lot of ideas here on that we see out in our communities in Connecticut and how they're engaging with the sector. So we're going to move on to the resource section of today's presentation. The first, of course, we always like to highlight as our partners over at the Regional Behavioral Health Action Organizations. For those of you on today who might not know, Connecticut is divided into 5 different RBHAO organizations. We do provide here for you each of their logos and a link to each of their websites. So they always have additional resources, information, opportunities available. So we suggest that you connect with your RBHAO for additional information. What we do for each of these sectors is provide this level of collaborations tool. So we've been recommending that either at a coalition leadership meeting or an organization meeting, full coalition meeting, for each of the sectors, just try to get a pulse from your members on where they feel the sector sits within your work, and just, you know, engage in that conversation and how we can move towards a greater collaborative relationship with the law enforcement sector. Lastly, for some of those, there's a lot of text on here. We did the direct-to-consumer training with GPP, the Governor's Prevention Partnership, recently. There was a lot of laws and executive orders pertaining to alcohol statutes and executive orders at this time for during COVID as well on direct delivery, alcohol delivery. So for this presentation, we just did put it all in here for you because I know that some people were interested in having it all in one place so they could easily access it. So here we have some state statutes around that, and then the executive orders that are in place as of today around direct-to-consumer alcohol. So you have some legal information with you, for you. Just as promised, here is our how to integrate cultural competence across the steps of the SPF, or the Strategic Prevention Framework. So this just gives everyone bullet points and ideas on how we work that into each of our steps. This is how the SPF contributes to sustainability, which we are all reaching for now and looking at, and how we sustain all of the incredible work that we're doing every day into each of those steps. And as with other sectors, some of the more evidence-based strategies that we see in Connecticut coalitions: youth engagement, enforcement, social norms campaigns, and coalition capacity building. We've given some ideas here on how you can embed law enforcement sector into each of those evidence-based strategies. And this is going to be a tool that TTASC will continue to build out for every sector, and we'll make available on our website, and getting ideas every day from coalition members and ourselves and our work as we work with each of you throughout the time to really create this really amazing tool so everyone can have additional ideas. Sorry. And then that is the last slide for today, and it's just some information here for you all. So how to access the tools on our website, preventiontrainingcenter.org, that is the TTASC website. There is a feedback link for this session, which we would just love. It is literally less than a minute. I know Ken, thank you so much, has already put it into the chat box. If you wouldn't mind just filling that out. Some of the feedback that we have received from earlier sectors, we have continued to evolve each of these sessions by providing additional resources and information. So that would be great. I'm going to hand it over to Ken for a second. So Ken, you have some announcements on upcoming events for TTASC that everyone here might want to know about?
Yes, so the first date is going to be Tuesday, January 19th at 10 a.m. And this event is the community level data collection, COVID-19 and beyond approaches and considerations for prevention. So with this event, this will be an interactive technical assistance event. And evaluation subject matter experts Nina Chanana, Emily Melnick, and Bonnie Smith will share insights as local evaluators for coalitions, including a recent effort to study COVID's impact on youth and adult alcohol use. Evaluators will provide guidance for interpreting and disseminating data collected during COVID, including uses, contextual considerations, and data limitations. So definitely put that on your calendar. The second date is Friday, January 29th from 10 a.m. till noon. We will be doing an ethics for prevention course. And whether you need if you're a coalition coordinator and you need 2 credits towards your certification, you will get 2 hours of ethics credit for this presentation. So stay tuned for a little more info on that one. You should be getting a flyer, and it will be on our website within the next day or 2.
Thanks, Ken. Last but not least, we have our YouTube links, so that where we have our YouTube channel, TTASC, and the other sectors are up. This will be uploaded there too. So if you ever want to share this out to anyone, that will be available shortly. And then just my name and email address if you have any technical assistance needs around this or anything else. TTASC is always here to help you. So with that, we are a little bit over 11:33. Just want to thank everyone for coming today. And thank you to Kelly and Karen for sharing your experiences. And we hope to see you in the remainder of January for our upcoming events. So stay well, everyone. Thank you for being here, and appreciate you every day. Have a great rest of your week. Thank you, guys. Bye, everyone.